he took it by force, he took it by coup, he took it by whatever, then submit. Because chaos and revolution and a coup would result into a fitna, would result in people's death. So submit, even he's not supposed to lead. قال فإنه من يعيش منكم فسيرى اختلافا كثيرا. He who's amongst you to live, then he will see a lot of split, اختلاف, differences amongst the people. قال فعليكم, so if you have a split, then the remedy is hold on to my sunnah, عليكم بسنتي, and the sunnah of the خلفاء الراشدين المهديين من بعد, and the ones who are rightly guiding Khalifa's sunnah. عضوا عليها بالنواجذ, bite onto it with your molars. Now in Arabic, if you have two things, we say عليهما. But if it's one, we say عليها. Prophet of Allah, his sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided caliphate are to be one, in one sausage. عضوا عليها. He didn't say عضوا عليهما. That means the sunnah of the Prophet is the same as the sunnah of the rightly guided Khalifa. So all of this is the same one. عضوا عليها بالنواجذ. What is the nawajis? The moral. The moral is that means you bite onto it to death. Don't let go of it. قال وإياكم ومحدثات الأمور. And be aware of the heresies, the innovated matters. فإن كل بدعة ضلالة, and every innovation is every innovation is كل بدعة ضلالة. Every innovation is a misguidance. So this is the hadith, which is supposed to be hadith. Prophet Allah has given it, his companions, and it's supposed to be as a farewell advice. And that's the title that scholars they always give to this hadith, a farewell advice. Here we find that the Prophet ﷺ, when he gave them the farewell advice, it was not a page. It's only about 3 lines. So it is few words. And that's how the person, when he wants to admonish people, not to give them something that they can't even memorize. If they memorize the beginning, they will forget the end. Or they memorize the end, they forget the beginning. Number 2, that the Prophet ﷺ, he's got this specialty. He said, أُوتِيتُ سِتًّا لَمْ يُطَهُنَّ نَبِيٌّ مِّن قَبْلِ. I've been given 6 things. The prophets before they were never been given these things. One of them, أُوتِيتُ جَوَامِعَ الْكَلِمِ. I've been given the jawami' al-kalim. Kalim is word, jawami' means collective. Means words which are few in number, but they have got lots of meaning. So I don't need to speak a lot in order to make the person understand what I'm saying. I'm going to give him few words, and those few words, if you want to explain them, you need what? Volumes of books. Just few words. The most eloquent speaker is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And Allah has given him this specialty nobody else can give. No prophet before him has been given these things. So he said, أُوتِيتُ جَوَامِعَ الْكَلِمِ. And the Prophet ﷺ did not leave anything which is good, that except that he had commanded his companion to do. And he left nothing which is evil except that he commanded his people, his companions, to keep away from. He had even taught us how to go to the toilet and clean ourselves. Prophet left nothing except that we tell us, this is the good thing, hold on to it. This is the bad thing, keep away from it. Also, the recommendation of a person always to give when he gives an admonition is to all the time command his people for taqwa. That's the wasiyyah, the commandment, the will, which all the prophets before. وَلَقَدْ وَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَنِ اتَّقُوا. We always give Allah to the prophets before and you, that is to fear Allah. This is the wasiyyah al-awwalin wal-akhirin. Have taqwa of Allah. And taqwa of Allah means that is you uphold the commands of Allah and keep away from what Allah prohibited in His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, here it says that we need to follow the commands of the leaders. As long as they don't command us to disobey Allah Azza wa Jal, I need to fulfill the commands, regardless how he is. Whether you think he's fit or you don't think he's fit, if he is there as a president, as a king, as a monarch, as an emperor, whatever it is, he's got the army with him. Okay, you've got one eye, 2 eyes, 1 leg, 2 legs, 1 finger, 2 fingers, big nose, looking ugly. I have to submit and to hear and obey. If you don't hear and obey, you will find a split, people killing one another. Also, the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, this is from the prophethood signs, that this ummah will split. Yes, we have differences these days. People do not listen to each other. Allah al-Musta'an, they not listen to the scholars. And the salah and the rectification and the triumph of this ummah is always with the existence and the presence of an imam, a leader that would lead them with the rules of Allah, and they will obey him as long as he obeys Allah. Also the warning against the innovations. إِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ. All innovations in the deens are misguidance, and it will bring mischief and corruption to the land. And also that is always a salvation in the times of strangers. Now we're at the time of the strangers. Wallahi, when we speak about the deen, people don't really listen because we're at the time of the strangers. So when you are in the time of being a stranger, and Islam is بَدَأَ غَرِيبًا وَسَوْفَ يَعُودُ غَرِيبًا كَمَا. Islam started as a stranger, and he will come back as a stranger. That means people are not going to accept it. You'll be left alone. The person who's holding to his religion is like holding to a burning coal. So the salvation in this time is always by implementing Quran and Sunnah, holding to the Book of Allah, holding to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and always with the understanding of the Salaf, which are the Sahaba radiallahu anhum wa ardahum. Now we skip 158, we go to 159, which is the fourth hadith in this chapter. And that is hadith Salama ibn Amr ibn Akwa radiallahu anhu wa ardahum. That a man had eaten in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ with his left. So the Prophet of Allah commanded him to eat with his right. He said, I cannot. He said, may Allah make you unable to do it. So, because the thing that prevented this person to eat with his right is his arrogance. He can. Because of this, Allah Azza wa Jal had paralyzed, had numbed his left hand. He couldn't lift it up to his mouth. You see, this hadith tells us, number one, that you must eat with the right. And you could never eat with the left unless there is a reason. Like let's say that you need to eat and your right being held to your back, or your right is being cut off. But you always eat with your right. There's no such thing left-handed. Left-handed, right with the left. Left-handed, punch somebody with your left. But left-handed, you cannot eat with your left. Left-handed, you can open the door with your left. You can push somebody with your left. Okay, but eating, you have to learn to teach yourself how to eat with the right. Because once you eat with the left, stinginess, dirty, and shaitan eats with you. So we don't want the shaitan to eat with us. So it is a must upon us to eat with the right. And every noble thing, Prophet of Allah used to use his right all the time. So when it comes to the right, he always starts with it. Comes in the masjid, his right first. So he's always right. When he starts putting his clothes, he puts his right first. When he puts his shoes on, he will start with his right first. And when he comes to the left, he leaves it to the stinger to clean those things which are dirty. Okay, so the right is always for the honorable, respected things. Number three is that what we learn here, this person had disobeyed the Prophet. And disobedience of the Prophet of Allah is going to entail the person to be sinned. Not only that, the Prophet of Allah, he had made a supplication against this person because of his arrogance and stubbornness. Why don't you eat with your right? He said, I can't. And may Allah make you, yet you're not able to do so. And he was not able to lift his left to his mouth. Also, the nasiha should be given to the person who eats and the drink, whether it's male, female, old, young, and no problem to advise this person in front of the people. So this person is eating with his left. He says, brother, eat with your right. You could do it in a nice way if you wish. That maybe that person forgot. And I remember our shaykh, rahimahullah, that he saw a person eating with his left. And this person, basically well known amongst his people. It's not correct maybe to give him the advice to belittle him in front of others. So he said it must be, and he was actually drinking the tea. He said, wallahi, this tea must be very, very nice. So nice that maybe you forgot to, drink it with your right. Oh, then you realized. So he just given it indirectly. And that drink made you forget which hand you're going to drink it with. Oh, and then he realized that he actually forgot and he had drank with his left. So you could really really put their advice in that sort of thing. But remember, don't leave the advice just because of that man is Superman or he is, highly ranked. Also, we find that the person can make dua against the person who have done something to do with arrogance. This man, he was arrogant. Prophet Allah made dua against him. And you see, arrogance is one of the things that the person will, be blocked from listening to the haqq. If you're arrogant, you will never listen to the haqq. You don't want to listen because you're arrogant. That is why the person who's arrogant, he deserves punishment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had honored his Prophet ﷺ by implementing and responding to his supplication. Hadith 160, straight away, which is the important hadith, and that is the hadith is to do with our masjid at the moment. And I have seen something I didn't see the last time. Now we have blue tape going around there. Whose idea is this, mashallah? I'm not saying la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I'm saying mashallah. Whose idea is this? Okay. Imams. So the Imams of the Haram decided to do this. Alhamdulillah. Right. I would say, let's just now discuss it through this hadith. First, Prophet ﷺ, this hadith, and Nu'man ibn Bashir radiyallahu anhuma, Prophet said, لَتُسَوُّنَّ صُفُوفَكُمْ. That's like a threat. Either you straighten your rules, أَوْ لَيُخَالِفَنَّ اللَّهُ بَيْنَ وُجُوهِكُمْ, or Allah will make a split between your faces. I will slightly like to split on the faces. Your faces will be different. Another narration in Sahih Imam Muslim, Prophet of Allah used to make sure that the rows are straight, like the arrows to be straight. The arrows is an example of everything which is the ultimate straightness at that time. So if you want to talk about how straight it is, you start to compare it to what? To the qidah, which is the arrows. When the arrow manufacturer, he does make them, he will line them up, and he will never make an arrow to edge forward or backwards by a millimeter. Because he has to make them equal in length, so that the person who throws an arrow, he will be able, by practice, to know how much his arrow, or how far is his arrow going to travel. So he will pull it with the same, basically he will be pulling it with the same strength, with the same pressure, and he will let go. So if that arrow was not the same as the one he practiced with, it will not hit the target. And that's why the arrows are said by the millimeters, weight-wise, and also measurement-wise, they are the same. So he said that he had lined up the people in the prayer all the time, like the arrow man who manufactured them, making sure that they're really straight, millimeters. Same thing that the Prophet ﷺ did. Once he had thought that he had actually gave enough practice, that he doesn't need to go and tell the people. One day came out, so he was about to say Takbir al-Ihram. Before he said Takbir al-Ihram, he stopped it. And he saw a man whom his chest just about inches in from the road. He said, Ibadallah, slaves of Allah, la tusawuna sufufakum. Either you, it's a threat from Allah, either you straighten your road, that means put your chest back, أو لا يخالفن الله بين وجوهكم. Allah will put mukhalafas, and the difference between your faces, not the narration between your hearts. So, this matter is not really easy. People think this is something. Why do people, they are concerned, talking about Imams here, you're concerned about making the rules straight. What is it? Now at the moment we should be concerned about Gaza, Palestine. SubhanAllah, if I straighten up the rule, is it going to affect Gaza and Palestine? If I just kept a close eye, I'm not going to straighten the rule. Why? Because the people are being killed in Gaza. Is that correct? SubhanAllah. It's the opposite. It is the opposite. Because we are not concerned about these little things. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us. That's the result of what your hands have earned. So we need to focus it. The Prophet said, very important, a threat. It's like a sin. It's not a sin, it's a great sin. How? And if you don't straighten your rows properly, and that is important, then the Split will be between your faces. What does that mean? That means you'll have enmity with each other. It's not split in your face and one is got one eye, second arm, nose long. It's not that. It's to do that you will have no basically links with each other, no bond. Because each one he hates the other one. He looks at him and he doesn't like it. Because of the rows. And that is a very, very strong hadith to show us the great and important link between what? The inside and the outside. The outside of yours is what? Straightening up the rows. Resulted into the split in the heart, which is the inside. So there is a big link, ikhwan. There is a big effect from the inside to the outside. It's related. The more you find the person is a believer and implementing the laws of Allah, the more you'll find it is reflecting on his outward. True or not? You'll find him, for example, coming to the prayer. If he's more dedicated, you'll find him, mashallah, dressed up as a prophet of Allah. If you find him, he will let go of his beard. So the more it is like an iman measurement. I'm not saying every person who is his outside is not as good as the other. That means the other one who is better looking Islamically, he is more iman inside his heart. But that's an indication, ikhwan. I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's an indication. Because if you love the Prophet ﷺ, you will not put a t-shirt which says Michael Jackson. True or not? It cannot be. You love the Prophet, you put Michael Jackson. It doesn't really work. Regardless whether your name is Muhammad or your name is Fatima. No way. That's something which is a lie. You're lying to yourself. You love the Prophet of Allah and you shave your hair like a punky. Up like this, making a tree. Growing a tree in your head. So love the Prophet of Allah. A claim, you have to prove it. I don't think so. If you love the Prophet ﷺ, you will do like the Prophet of Allah. And what is why? You imitating those people who are not the Prophets of Allah, and you imitate them in everything. The way you dress up, the way you eat, the way you put your hat, the way you put your haircut, everything. That's how you love them. See? If you love the Prophet of Allah, you will do like his companions. Exactly, they follow the messenger of Allah to the letter. Whatever they say, they do. Prophet of Allah, he was in the prayer. Suddenly he took his shoes off. They took their shoes off. See? They followed the Prophet ﷺ. They took the shoes off. Prophet of Allah, he told them, why would you take your shoes off after the prayer? All of the shoes are off. The messenger of Allah, we saw you doing it. He never said, you fools, you just follow me with this. He never said that. He had said, well, I did it for a reason. That Jibreel Salam came to tell me that there is dirt, najasa, something just filth, impurity in my shoes. I took them off. So if you come to the masjid, look at your shoes, rub them, because he used to pray with the shoes, rub them in the ground if you've got something, and then pray in them. So if you have that dirt into the shoes while you pray, take it off. So do the same. So here the companions used to follow the Prophet ﷺ to the letter. One is important. That is the Imam, because the Prophet all the time, when he comes out, he would make sure that our rows is straight. I tell you what, this is maybe in the masjid, you have time. Now you're fighting with the enemies. You are in the battlefield. Enemies are watching. Somebody might say, we don't have time, Akhi Imam, for the straightening of the roads. Come on, get on with the prayer. We don't have time for that. Subhanallah. Prophet ﷺ, he was keen. Number one, to make sure that he prays Jama'ah while he is fighting. And he made salah called Salat al-Khawf, the prayer of the fear, where groups of the armies will be divided into more than one group. One is praying with the Prophet of Allah facing the Qibla, the other one will be praying with the Prophet of Allah but facing the other side, to the enemies, when these enemies behind the Qibla. And we will be praying together. Subhanallah, but nobody will be, not all of them will go to sujood together. One party will go to sujood, and the other one holding, looking at the enemy, and they pray in Jama'ah. He never said, okay, we'll pray one group, and then after that you come one group. No, pray Jama'ah all together. And then one day he is lining up the people, the companions in the battlefield for the straight road. And he was doing it, and he was going by one side to another, and he was having the arrow of his. The arrow, the Prophet of Allah, it's got two ends. One which is the stick, the wooden, and the other one's got the piece of metal that will kill the person. Okay? That's the arrow. So with the other end, which is not the sharp end, okay, he is like making sure that, his belly sticking out, his chest is sticking out, just pushing it there until I lined up. So he just pushed one person, that person said, what happened? His name is Sawad al-Nawazir. What's happened? I'm sure I've got something. You harmed me. You harmed me. Subhanallah. So The Prophet ﷺ straight away, he lifts up his garment and he says, come on, Sawad, iqtal, mean have retaliation. Let me just ask that person who said in Quran, unless he's praying. Just to protest. He said, iqtal, that means, because either I'm going to be talking louder to him and then he's not going to hear my voice, he's not going to be hearing his recitation. And it's not correct as well to, unless he's praying. He's praying? Yes. Iqtal. Come on, have retaliation. Straight away, Sawad, he hugs his belly and he starts kissing his belly. What's wrong, Sawad? He said, Messenger of Allah, you can see we're about to fight. It could be the last moment of my life. And I would like to have my skin touching his skin before I die. Because he loved the Prophet. So he pretended he was. Why? But here the hadith says how the Prophet was keen to make sure that the rows are straight, even though it's a battlefield. So Imam Sabs, we make sure that the rows are straight. Making sure that the rows are straight. Why don't we actually just put a line and then put a string or put a choke, whatever, or draw a line, and that's it. Don't bother about, do you think that the line by itself is enough for straightening out the road? Wallahi, it is not enough. It helps, but it is not enough. You'll find the people becoming lazy. That's number one. Even when we had, remember, we used to pray with the first two rows, they pray with a split between the carpet and the carpet, they take it as a line. But still, you find a person with 1 inch back, 1 inch forward, is chested, because they're not keen to make sure that they are straight. I'm not talking about this masjid. MashaAllah, this masjid, MashaAllah, they're implementing the sunnah, alhamdulillah. But you could still go to another masjid, and do you do itbah here in this masjid outside?
Sometimes it's not right.
Let's say sometimes. Where is it sometimes? It's outside. Where? In the park. In the park, you don't have carpets like this. In the park, you don't have, lines like this or plaster. You're not going to give a duct tape and start ducking tape all the park. You can't do that. Now, you'll find the people who practice in straight row, feet to feet, shoulder to shoulder. You have no problem. Put them in the park, they will be straight. But if they're not being trained, they'll find the row like that, zigzag. Do you understand? You find it zigzag like this. But if they are trained, you stretch the row 1 mile, still straight. Because you put in the shoulder to the shoulder, feet to the feet, the ankle to the ankle, he will be straight with his brother. All the way. Yes, there will be an adjustment here and there, but the people will be trained. So, now, talking about the duct tape in this masjid, the reason was introduced because of the pillars. Now that was the reason. Those pillars are causing trouble. Every time the imam is lining up, you'll find a row there is broken. It's not joined. So you find a row in between the pillars and that already is being cut off. So the brothers, Jazakumullah, the imams, had made this idea just to make sure that they're not going to be joining the joint between the carpets. That's what they go to, isn't it? The joint between the carpets. So those pillars, subhanAllah, I would have liked to put detonations to take them out, or the masjid would collapse. But the thing is, you see, when we have this technology these days and engineering, I'm pretty sure that we could really substitute these pillars with big massive bridges. But anyway, this is for engineers and civil engineers to do. I'm just saying, your masjid, inshallah, alhamdulillah, very good. Do you lose any roads because of this? You haven't lost any roads. You lost 1 or 2, or maybe you lost 1? Yes.
No, yeah.
No, alhamdulillah. So anyway, that is that. And when I saw it, I was really happy. Because every time I come, I find myself in a row which is broken. You find a bit here and the other side from the other pillar, from the other side. Alhamdulillah, this one, Jazakallah khair for doing this, but does not exempt your imams from making sure that they are straight as well. As I said, that sometimes with the line, people start becoming lazy. They don't really put the feet with the feet, shoulder to shoulder. You just make sure, just go between the rows. And if you see people, mashallah, your customers, mashallah, mastered that, alhamdulillah, could go ahead. Wallahi, I go to a masjid in Derby in Jumu'ah, during the Jumu'ah. And when I line up the people in the Jumu'ah, it's about, we're talking about 1,000 plus people there, mashallah. So when I line the people, I go to about 3, 4, 5 rows, all of them together, mashallah. I say, that's enough for me. 5 rows is a good sample for me. So I go back. So why? Because they've been trained by the Imam. All the time, Imam, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, will not say Allahu Akbar like the Prophet said. Until they what? They are feet to feet, shoulder to shoulder. طيب. Prophet ﷺ, to make sure that the body would affect the inside and the inside would affect the outside, we'll find here the Prophet of Allah, he always told us to sit together. And all the time I advise my brothers here when they sit for the circle to sit together. Prophet Allah saw us one day, like in the circle, he said, Many arakum izin. And I'm just saying here, Many arakum izin. The brothers of the dad, come forward. Brother, come forward. Everybody, come forward. Get closer. Many arakum izin. Why do you like see you scattered? What did the Prophet like travel with the companions? The traveling is in the desert. It's an open desert, it's not like a masjid. So when he saw them scattered in the desert like this, he said, إِنَّ تَفَرُّقَكُمْ هَذَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. This scattering of yours is from the act of the shaitan. Allahu Akbar. So after this, companions, whenever they camp in anywhere in the desert, they will sit so close to each other, even if you put one carpet, it would be enough for all of them. Just from one command of the Prophet. So, Khwani, maybe you don't feel it, but this will result. When you sit together, you'll feel that there is something barakah coming on. There is something of unity coming on. But if you sit like a shisha club, one there and one here, or back to the car, that's not being the knowledge. Listen, it's good for shisha club, but not here. The masjid and the people, or the masjid in the etiquette, wallahi, we sit with the shaykh. All of you will sit just about in this table here behind us. All of us will sit just like this. All of us, I'm really talking about 50 feet, shoulder to shoulder. We were together with the shaykh, and we were just like this. And we feel the barakah, feel the ilm, feel the knowledge. 162, we skip 161, and then we say that the Prophet ﷺ, he had said, and listen to this example of the Prophet of Allah, he sets up for himself and to those who listen to him. He says, إِنَّ مَثَلَ مَا بَعَثَنِ اللَّهُ بِهِ. The example of what Allah had sent me with, from the guidance and from the knowledge, is like ghayth. Ghayth means rain, which is beneficial. قال أصاب أرضا, and it had fell, this ghayth, this rain fell on top of a land. فكانت طائفة طيبة. So one group was really good. قبلت الماء, accepted the water, and grown some agricultures and crops. And it's many of it. And then some of it, it was land, but it just held the water. It did not produce any crops. And Allah Azza wa Jal benefit the people from that land, where the birds and the animals that they come and drink from that land, where they find some water. And also they took from that water to plant themselves. But another one, which is the third one, there was qi'an. Land that does not hold the water, nor it produces any plantation, no crops. This is the example of the person who had understood the religion of Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jal made him to be beneficial with what Allah had sent me with. So he had learnt and he had taught, and the one who did not do anything except that he had listened and the knowledge came from one ear, passed through the ear. This is the one which is like that land did not accept the water. Prophet ﷺ is telling us an example. Let's investigate it. Ibn Allah, he says that the hayat al-ummah, the life of this ummah, is always attached with their religious knowledge. No knowledge, no life. Because the Prophet of Allah, he had given the example of his knowledge from the guidance and from the deen is like ghayth, like rain. Can we live without water? We cannot. So it is ghayth. So the Prophet ﷺ described the ummah, the knowledge to this ummah is like the ghayth. And any ummah implemented this ghayth, got benefit out of it, this is a live ummah. Otherwise they are dead. They are dead. So Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, regarding this hadith, he gives us some explanation which we want to listen to. He says in his book, Miftah Dar al-Sa'ada, he said that the Prophet ﷺ gave the similarity of the knowledge and the guidance of his with this ghayth, and each land would benefit from it accordingly. So we know that the knowledge now is the rain, and as for the hearts are to be given the example of the land where the rain goes on to it. So when the rain comes, there will be plants, there will be crops coming out. And then he divided the people into three categories according to their hearts, how they respond to this knowledge. Number one is the one who memorize and also at the same time understand. So they receive the knowledge of the Prophet and also memorize it, and then they will understand it. Because of that, they will teach it to other people as well. And those are the best of the groups. Those are the ones who memorize. This is the similarity of this land, which accepted the rain, and the rain produced crops. Second category, those are the ones who memorize, but they don't have the same understanding as the first group. But they were beneficial because they held the knowledge, passed it on to the other people, yet they did not understand really as much. So those people still beneficial. Similarity of the land that held the water, did not produce crops, okay? So the crops was not there, but other people came and benefited from that water. Animals came to drink from that water, so that's beneficial. The third category is the one who got no memorization and no understanding and no benefit. It's like that land who had sucked the water and no crops. So the first two groups, they have combined, they have something in common, which is knowledge and teaching, each one according to his understanding. As the third one, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, no teaching, no learning. Oh, these are the ones who are worse than the animal. Those are the ones going to be the fuel of the fire. So this hadith tells us about the nobility of the knowledge, and it's very important, ya ikhwan. And the people might live without water for a bit of time, but they can't live without knowledge. If we are in need of the water, for example, daily, we are in need of the religious knowledge as many as our breath. How much we breathe inside and outside every minute, that's the quantity of knowledge that we are in need of. We are in need of knowledge. Wallahi, without knowledge, we can't survive. Without knowledge, we can't be triumphed and victorious. That's the hadith which is 162. Now we go into another hadith, which is 164, skipping 163, and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ regarding licking his fingers. Messenger of Allah, he had commanded to lick the fingers and to make sure that you leave nothing in the plate. And then he said, إِنَّكُمْ لَا تَدْرُونَ أَيْنَ الْبَرَكَةِ فِي أَيُّهَا الْبَرَكَةِ. You don't know where the barakah lies, which part of the food that you are eating the barakah is. Then he said in another narration that if one of yours food morsel fell down, let him pick it up and remove the dirt, and then let him eat it, and should not leave it to the shaitan. And he should not wipe his hand in the towel until he licks his fingers, because he doesn't know where the barakah lies. And another narration, shaitan always is keen to be present in everything that the person, human being, is doing. So whenever he is eating, he's there. And if one of the morsels of the food had fell from your hand, then let you pick it up, clean it up, and then eat it, and do not let it for the shaitan. This hadith tells us, number, it is from the sunnah, that the ta'am, the food, has a barakah, a blessing, but we don't know which part of that barakah is. Is it in the last portion of that, let's say samosa that you're eating, or is it in that salad, maybe tomatoes left there? We don't know where's the barakah. There's a barakah in that food that you're eating. And also the person, he should be keen to get this barakah. And the way to get this barakah is to leave nothing in that food. With everything that is from to you, to eat it, leave nothing. So do not, if you knew how much is the barakah, wallah, you will not be swapping that even with the whole dunya. And also it is recommended for the person to lick his fingers, and also to make sure that he will wipe out clean the plates, even with the bread, whatever, leave nothing there. Why? Because this shows how humble you are. This shows how you are respecting the blessing, the ni'mah of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Also, if a morsel falls down from you, it's good for you to go and pick it up, remove the harm, unless it fell in a najasa. Fell in the toilet, you can't pick it up and clean it. It's a najasa, you can't, but it's like in the sand, on the land, whatever. So just remove the dirt from it and eat it. And verily, don't leave it to the shaitan. Because the shaitan, that's another benefit, is that he's always there. Subhanallah. Shaitan is always there for us. He's an enemy. And he is trying to harm us in every way and every shape and form. He will not leave us in anything subtle, except that he will try to snatch something. If you're sleeping, snatch something. If you read the Quran, snatch something. If you pray, snatch something. He wants to snatch all the time. Also, that, subhanAllah, yes, the person, Sharia Islamiyya is all the time telling us that what the people say that, the food that has come to the floor, throw it, that's not correct. Because of disease and all of this, that's not correct. Because the Sharia is talking to you from divine. Just remove the dirt. You could clean it, you could wipe it, you could wash it, but don't leave it to the shaitan. Islam is the religion of cleanliness. Person is to be hygiene, top hygiene, and he will not be tolerating any dirt. By this, alhamdulillah, we have finished 164. Final hadith, and we will inshallah call it, or the final two hadiths. Hadith 166, hadith which is number 10 in this chapter, where Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, listen to this hadith because it talks about the day of resurrection. He said, the Prophet ﷺ, he gave us an admonition. He said, oh people, you're going to be gathered on the day of resurrection in front of Allah, hufa, burning for you, ura, naked, walla, circumcised part will be attached to you. كما بدأنا أول خلق نعيده وعدا علينا إنا كنا فاعلين. Just like we have started the first creation, we can bring you back again. And that's a promise upon us, and we will do it. But the first person who will be given the clothes is Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then the man will be brought from my ummah, and he will be taken to the left. So I will say, the Prophet will say, this is ashabi, oh Lord, my companions, my friends. He said, you don't know what they've done after you. So I said, just like the righteous slave has said, he means Isa alayhi salam, وَكُنْتُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا مَا دُمْتُ فِيهِمْ. And I was a witness against them when I was with them. To the end of the verses, Al-Aziz al-Hakim, Surah Al-Ma'idah. So it will be said to me, they were all the time committing apostasy. They went back onto their heels since you have left them. So this hadith tells us a number of issues. Number one, that all the creation will be gathered on the day of resurrection, and in the following manner. They will be barefooted and they will be naked, exactly like you were born from your mother. And this is to show you that you're going to have nothing from the dunya that you have been collecting and gathering. All of that will not benefit you whatsoever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promise is going to come regardless. And it shows us as well that the clothes is a ni'mah, blessing from Allah. Because the first person, you're not going to be sucking and happy to be naked. First person who's going to be given these clothes is Sayyidina or Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, to show his excellence. And he's the first person to be given the garment to dress up. And also shows us that the people of bid'ah and innovations, they will be punished for what they do. And that's why they were taken to the left. And the Prophet would say, my companions. He would say, no. Well, verily, if you are attributed to the Prophet yourself, you will not be benefiting just simply by saying, I follow the Prophet. You have to implement the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And the companions you mentioned in this hadith, what is meant, is not the companions of the Ashar al-Mubasharun, the 10 companions giving glad tidings, or the companions who are the ones who were with the Prophet of Allah to the end of their lives. They believed in the Prophet of Allah, they died upon Islam. Those are the people going to be in paradise. They're the best of generations after the prophets. Here he's talking about those who are hypocrites, or those who are the Bedouins, the Arab, the ones who committed apostasy. As soon as the Prophet of Allah died, they have committed apostasy and became non-Muslims. And the ones who fought them are the Sahaba themselves. So they fought them in the Harb, the apostasy war. So it is not meant, because maybe this hadith can be picked up by those like Rafidah to say, look, Ashabi, he says. That means the companions have already proved to be treacherous. As soon as the Prophet of Allah died, they committed kufr. No, this is not Ashabi. It means Ashabi, Ashab Rasulullah sallallahu, the Prophet of Allah, he said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, by the one in whose hand is my soul, if one of you to spend in charity as much as gold, as much as the mountain of Uhud, he will not reach the same reward if one of these companions to spend in charity half or one full mud, that is 2 hands full of mud of barley, never mind gold. So these guys, if you spend in charity, full like this in charity of barley, which is how cheap it is, or half of it, it will be much more rewarded than you spending the mountain of gold of Uhud, the mountain of Uhud in gold in charity, because they are the companions. Nobody is like the companions. Khwani, you have to differentiate between knowledgeable and he's got the excellence. Companions, nobody's better than them except for the prophets. Nobody. Umar ibn Aziz, he came after the companions. Knowledge-wise, maybe he's better some of the companions, but in terms of excellence, oh. Any person who saw the Prophet of Allah, even for a sa'ah, 1 hour, not 1 day, 1 hour, and he believed in the Prophet, and he died upon Islam, he is better than Umar ibn Aziz. So the least of the companions, in terms of virtues-wise, is better than the best of the people who comes after them. Better than Hassan al-Basri, better, because the companions. They are the companions. Allah especially they've been handpicked, you could say. They are chosen to be the ministers of His Prophet Muhammad. Last hadith now, 166, which is hadith Abdullah ibn Mughaffal. Abdullah ibn Mughaffal, he says that he saw a person, which is from his relatives, he was throwing with stones. And he was throwing stones, amongst the people. He was throwing stones and playing with the stones. So he said to him, Prophet of Allah forbade throwing the stone. For when it does not kill the game, so it does not make the game. So if you hit the stone with a bird and the bird died, you can't eat that bird. It's dead. It's not being slaughtered. It hasn't even got blood. So it will not kill the game, nor it will be effective into the enemies. So such things that quoting that we are fighting the enemies with stones, and you know what I'm talking about. That's not going to be a fighting as well. How are you going to fight the enemies? With the stone is having a rocket with a tank and say this is a war. It doesn't work like that. So the stones will not have an effect against the enemy. It only pokes the eye and breaks the teeth. How true it is. Only pokes the eye, it's you blind. If you threw it and he got the eye of somebody, you might blind him, or it will break his tooth. That's what it does. So when he's told him this, after that, after a while, he started throwing. So he said to him, I tell you what the Prophet of Allah said. And he forbade from doing this, and he still went back to throw. I'm not going to talk to you whatsoever. At all. Forever. I'm not going to talk to you. That means he had disowned his relatives. I'm not going to talk to you. Prophet of Allah said, and you're still throwing. Now, throwing here, as I said, amongst where people, amongst the houses, where a person can come out of the house. But if you are throwing, let's say, in a desert, there's nobody there. Or you're throwing into the sea, sea water. And you see how fast your stone is going to fly on top of the water, yeah? And there's nobody there, you know that there's empty sea, there's no problem to do that. But in amongst, as I said, living people, anybody can come out of the house or come out of the car, you will hit him, his eye, and if you throw it, it goes beyond the fence. You don't see what's happening, but it might land on somebody's head and affect him, wallahu ta'ala a'lam. So this tells us that there is a prohibition of not doing such a thing, because there is no benefit out of it. And Islam always prohibits anything that there is no benefit out of it. And so anything that has no benefit out of it, Islam prohibits it. If there is no benefit out of it. And also it shows us that the Muslim's inviolability, himself is very sacred. We should really all the time make sure that we don't get the harm of ours to reach him. So prevent our harm from reaching the people of Islam. And also when you see somebody who did something wrong, you should tell him off. And you tell him by giving the proof from the hadith or from the ayah of the Quran. Also it tells us it is permissible for the person to boycott somebody who has done something which is wrong after you have admonished him. Here, Abdullah ibn Mughaffal, he had boycotted that relative of his because he told him once, he didn't listen, I'm not going to talk to you. And you could really as well use that against the innovators. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, religion is to be more dearer to the believer than himself, his wealth, his children, his wife, and anybody else. So religion comes first. Don't compromise. By this, alhamdulillah, we have finished chapter number 16. Inshallah, we'll discuss the next month, chapter 17, with just maybe one hadith, and that's it. I think it's got one hadith. Maybe we'll just do the ayah, and then we'll go to chapter 18. So 2 chapters, inshallah, next week. If you have any questions regarding what you heard, please go ahead. And if it's a question to do with other than the topic